The defense has promised in his opening statement that Brian Walshe is going to tell the jury. Hear ye, hear ye. We are once again gathered in the county of Norfolk, court in Dedham, for another trial in Massachusetts. It's Monday, it's December 1st. It's time for Massachusetts versus Brian Walshe. He's been accused of killing his wife in Massachusetts. A lot of overlap in law enforcement from the Karen Read case. Different judge, different prosecutor, different defense attorneys, and we'll see what the facts are. We are going into this one watching it like a jury. We've covered this briefly in the discovery motions dealing with the proctor of it all, but we have not gotten into a ton of the facts in this case. So it will be interesting to watch it unfold today in opening statements and then as we go. And Proctor is on the defense witness list. This jury was selected early the week before Thanksgiving, and then they were on break for the entire week of Thanksgiving. So they are just coming back. It's day one.
On January 4th, 2023, Teresa Marchese returned to work after New Year's holiday. She works at Tishman Speyer, and she is the director of human capital management.
Human capital management?
To say that she's the director of human resources.
HR? Right.
And Tishman Speyer is a real estate management company, but it's a global real estate management company. It has buildings all over the world. And this office that Ms. Marchese works in is in Washington, D.C. When she returned to her office in Washington, D.C. that morning, she was alerted that one of her coworkers' husbands was trying to find her coworker. The coworker was Anna Walshe, and her husband is Brian Walshe. And in addition to the Cohasset police, the Massachusetts State Police also worked with them on trying to find Anna. You're going to hear from two troopers in particular, Trooper Nicholas Guarino and Trooper Connor Keefe.
Who?
They are digital.
Guarino and Keefe? Because they're the only two digital MSP officers? Okay.
Trooper Guarino will also explain to you the internet history of that MacBook that had Brian Walshe's Apple ID beginning on January 1st.
Oh boy.
At 4:54 a.m., the MacBook searched best way to dispose of a body, and then went to similar websites for more than an hour. At 6:24 a.m., same day, the same device searched how long for someone to missing to inherit. How long missing to be dead? Can you throw away body parts?
Oh boy.
Later on that morning, on January 1st at 9:33 a.m., the MacBook went to search how long does DNA last?
Does everyone just start their Googles with how's long? No, it was how long because he was on a MacBook, not on a phone.
And then an article. Is it possible to clean DNA off a knife?
Oh boy, I didn't know about that.
Later, the MacBook.
Is it possible to clean DNA off a knife? Wow.
30 minutes later, the MacBook researched disposal of a cell phone. At 10:28 a.m., the MacBook researched, I am the user of my wife's credit card. She is missing. And again, on January 1st, at 11:28 a.m., it searched, best way to dispose of body parts after a murder.
What?
Trooper Guarino will explain the numerous websites and searches done by the MacBook in the morning and early afternoon on January 1st, and that these websites were about cleaning blood with ammonia,
After a murder?
hydrogen peroxide. Websites visited included those as whether
The after a murder part and the how to clean DNA off a knife are not going to be helpful for the defense. The cross-examination of Trooper Guarino is going to be so based in the Karen Read case and others because we are going to see so many questions. But the after a murder is going to be difficult.
Websites visited included those as whether it is better to throw away crime scene clothes or wash them. One site was entitled,
He called them
"Want to get away with..."
called them crime scene clothes? Is it better to throw away crime scene clothes or wash them? Oh boy.
One site was entitled, "You want to get away with murder? Use a special deterrent." This type of activity on the MacBook continued into January 2nd, when it looked up, how long does Lowe's keep security footage? How to saw a body. How to dismember a body.
Oh my God.
Can you be charged with murder without a body?
Yes. Yes, you can.
Can you identify a body with broken teeth? You'll see the video from Walgreens, where a white man with dark hair using a credit card buys Band-Aids and antibiotic. You'll see on the surveillance video at the CVS in Danvers that a white man with dark hair, now wearing a mask, buys hydrogen peroxide using cash. You'll see the surveillance video from the Stop and Shop in Swampscott, where a white man then goes buys ammonia with cash. And you'll see the surveillance video from the Lowe's in Danvers, where a white man
Was he breaking up where to buy the different things?
wearing a mask, dark hair, buys several items that cost more than $400 using cash, including a Tyvek suit and cutting instruments such as shears, snips, and a hacksaw. The investigators will explain how this...
It's a very Dexter shopping list with the Tyvek suit, shears, snips, and a hacksaw.
Cell phone location data from the iPhone SE shows that it went to a Home Goods in the morning of January 2nd, and that Brian's iPhone 13 mini went to a Home Depot in Rockland in the afternoon of January 2nd. You will see the surveillance videos from those stores. You'll see a white man with dark hair at Home Goods buying scented candles and area rugs.
Scented candles and area rugs.
And you'll see a white man with dark hair at the Home Depot buying more cleaning supplies. 20 pounds of baking soda, mop, buckets, and a hatchet.
Jesus.
During this case, we ask two things. The first is that you keep an open mind. Do not rush to judgment, but instead, see how all the evidence fits together. Pay careful attention to the timing of certain events. And second, use your common sense. Don't leave it home. Bring it with you here as you make your examination of every piece of evidence. And at the end of this trial, we will speak to you one more time.
Find her guilty.
And it is at that time we will ask that you find the defendant
Guilty
of murdering his wife with deliberate premeditation. Thank you.
That was a good opening statement. I think the Commonwealth gave a very good opening statement. They, I imagine, did not give us all the facts that they are going to prove, but they gave us a substantial amount of information, including dates and times. But they also told us that two of the witnesses we're going to see are Trooper Garino and Trooper Keefe, who we did see in the Karen Reed case. I imagine that cross-examination is going to be extensive. We heard a lot of Googling. We heard about all of the security footage they're going to show of this defendant purchasing cleaning supplies, a hacksaw, a hatchet, a Tyvek suit, and more, and that the suit, the hatchet, and hacksaw were found with the victim's boots, watch, a COVID vaccination card with her name on it, a jacket, and more. Plus, her DNA, they say, was on the hatchet, the hacksaw, and more. The Google search that was a revelation to me was the Googling of, can you get DNA off of a knife? And numerous Googles relating to murder. It's going to be a very interesting case. I still think after the prosecution's opening statement that the defense will say that she died in some other way and he disposed of her. The only searches before the murder are regarding divorce. And so I imagine they are going to say that he was looking at divorces, that he suspected that she was already moving on with somebody else. She wasn't home. She wasn't home for Thanksgiving. She wasn't home for most of Christmas. She wasn't home for Christmas Eve. And he was saying that they needed to divorce. Or he's going to say that the divorce was a strategy to not impact her finances for his restitution in the federal case, even though the sentencing hadn't happened yet and that restitution wasn't set. So perhaps the divorce was to protect the finances and the kids. It'll be interesting to see what they say in their opening statement, because the Google searches plus the purchasing of area rugs, scented candles, and a shit ton of cleaning supplies that one would use or would Google to use to clean blood is going to be very interesting. And I imagine their defense would be easier to argue if some of those Google searches didn't include words like murder, can you get DNA off a knife, how long is somebody missing before you inherit, and more. So I'm very interested to see what the defense opening statements are. So let's get to those next.
Brian Walshe lied to the police.
Wow.
Lied to him on January 4th, lied to him on January 5th, lied to him on January 7th.
Because he was afraid?
Brian Walshe went to Lowe's and bought tools. Brian Walshe went to Home Depot and bought tools.
I think what we're going to see from the defense is Brian Walshe did all this, but Brian Walshe did not kill Anna Walshe.
Brian Walshe, beginning about 4:54 a.m., began a frantic and tragic search that you'll hear about. You'll hear the evidence of that. You will hear evidence that those searches evolved from how best to dispose a body to even darker subject matter.
Oh boy.
As he wrestled with the fact that Anna Walshe was dead.
Well, there's that defense.
On January 1st of 2023, Jim Mutlow left the family home of Brian and Anna Walshe sometime between 1 and 1:30 in the morning.
God, I hope he's the first witness.
Anna and Brian Walshe continued to celebrate the New Year's. They went upstairs to the bedroom.
And
About an hour later, you'll hear evidence that Mr. Walshe got up, went back downstairs to clean the kitchen. You'll see evidence
what time is this?
that
Like
he
3 a.m.?
looked at his email. You'll hear evidence that he then returned to the bedroom, intending nothing more than to crawl into bed with Anna Walshe, the woman he loved.
And
When he entered the bedroom and began to get into the bed, he sensed something was wrong. You will hear evidence that it made no sense to him. But he nudged Anna, his wife.
if you're asking how is he saying this is in evidence, because it would have been in one of his police interviews, I imagine, because what the defense can't open on is things they anticipate Brian Walshe saying if he testifies. This has to come from police interviews. I think they are going to argue that she spontaneously passed in her sleep.
She didn't respond. He nudged her again, a little harder. She didn't respond. He nudged her now in a frantic and panic reaction to where she actually rolled off the bed.
Oh, he's definitely going to testify.
You'll hear evidence that now he is panicking and he doesn't understand what has happened and what is happening. The evidence will show that the only time Anna Walshe talked about divorce with William Fastow, she talked about it in terms of Brian and I attempting to preserve the family assets. Why is that important? Because yes, there was $400,000 of restitution that was going to come due. And yes, Brian may have had to go to prison for some time. And what did that mean? It meant that there was going to have to be arrangements, not just to pay the money, which wasn't going to be a problem, but the boys had to move up to DC because Brian could no longer take care of them. And there would be all that added expense. And they went so far as to talk to Robin Howe, their nanny, their babysitter.
I mean, they already had
and
the
asked her if she would consider moving up. So there were expenses. So when you talk about preserving the family assets, you have to decide, how is it that I make sure, how is it, as Brian Walshe will tell you, how is it that I make
He's going to do it. He's going to do the thing I said he was going to do. He's going to do the thing. The divorce is to save the assets.
You have to decide, how is it that I make sure, how is it, as Brian Walshe will tell you, how is it?
Brian Walshe will tell you. The defense has promised in his opening statement that Brian Walshe is going to tell the jury.
He never thought anybody would believe that Anna Walshe was alive 1 minute and dead the next.
Sir, sadly, people have all kinds of things. It happens.
All he could think about were those 3 boys. What would happen to their 3 boys now that Anna is no longer here? What will happen if they think he did something bad to Anna? Where will those 3 boys go?
Why would they think that?
And so, he told the story. He told lies. He tried to hide. Brian Walshe never killed him. Brian Walshe never thought about killing him. He would never think about that. Brian Walshe is not guilty.
Definitely a different style of opening than we saw from the prosecutor. Much more impassioned oration and very loud narration, including an interesting phrase, Brian Walshe will tell you. But as we thought the defense was going to do, and as it seems they are going to do, the defense said to the jury that Brian Walshe did not kill Anna Walshe. He did not think about killing her. That goes to the premeditation first-degree murder. And he is not guilty. They also said that the concern or the searches about divorce were regarding protecting the family assets because he had pled guilty to the art fraud case. And there was going to be about $400,000 of restitution, which the defense said he can easily pay. But the crux of the defense's statements in opening statements are that Brian Walshe and Anna Walshe on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day early in the morning had a lovely time. We're planning for the future. He went downstairs and cleaned the kitchen and checked his email, as one does, at 3 a.m. after they've been drinking on New Year's Eve, and then went back upstairs to get into bed, felt that something was amiss, nudged Anna. She was unresponsive, nudged her again, and then nudged her so hard, his words, not mine, that she fell out of the bed onto the floor, and he panicked, knowing, it seems he didn't say, but panicked, knowing that she was deceased. And as he got back to that later in his opening statements, said that he didn't think anyone would believe that his wife just passed. He didn't think anyone would believe him. And what would the boys think, their 3 young children, if he did something bad to their mother? And what would happen to his kids? Where would they go if he has to go to prison on his federal case with their mother being deceased? So he said, Brian Walshe lied to the police. Brian Walshe went and purchased the things he purchased, but he didn't think about killing Anna Walshe. He didn't kill Anna Walshe, and says that the divorce conversation was about protecting the assets, he said, of which they had many. I wonder if the jury's sitting there going, yeah, but all those Google searches about DNA and a knife. And if you find someone and it seems that they have had a medical emergency or, God forbid, are deceased, I think the jurors are sitting there going, but you don't call 911? It'll be interesting to see how they continue to argue this. But again, it was a easy to follow opening statement from the defense. Not everybody appreciates the volume with which the defense made it, but I think he would have kept the jury engaged and interested in, well, what is Brian Walshe going to have to say about all of this? Because I think the defense promised an opening that Brian Walshe will testify, which we have suspected, especially when he pled to lying to police and disposing of the body. But if you come across something accidental and awful, do you call it a crime scene in your searches? And so I think one of the hard-fought areas of this trial are going to be the Google searches. And we already know that there are going to be some interesting aspects of cross-examination for Trooper Guarino. How much faith will the jury have in those Google searches? And will they try to call in someone external from MSP to testify about those Google searches?
At this point in time, Ms. Gilman, I'd ask if you could press play on Exhibit 53, the interview from January 4th.
Yeah, then she woke me up around 6 and said she was going. She came down. I guess Thomas heard her and came down, and she said, I have to go. And he said, I love you very much. And
you are inserting things that you are saying that your child said after an opening statement. Your defense attorney just said that she spontaneously died, and you've spent the last few days, I mean, they didn't say that in opening, but we can assume that you've spent the last few days disposing of her. And now you are going to tell law enforcement that one of your children was saying goodbye to their mother, ensuring that law enforcement will probably ask said child, what are you doing?
And she said, I love you very much. And then he said that she left, he got in a taxi, but I don't think he saw it because it was further down. But if you want to talk to him, but he said it was a taxi. And I was like, he described the car. He's like, well, I really didn't see it, Dad. So I was like, okay. So he was coming down to get, I think,
Maybe Anna said taxi.
Maybe she's my driver. But I know that she was not driving. There's no way she was driving a vehicle. There's like zero possibility of that.
One of the reasons someone goes missing is because they were abused or injured or assaulted. Did you do anything to hurt your wife?
No, that's right. I wouldn't hurt my wife. I mean, I love my wife. All we want is to have her back. This family doesn't work without her. I mean, we can't function without her.
You guys have never had a physical fight, nothing like that before?
No, not at all.
I know you said you're willing to, do whatever you can to help the investigation. We thank you for that. And, part of that, I think, is trying to understand Anna. And I think if you would allow us to look through your phone and consent to us downloading your phone.
Give us your devices.
Some of the communications between you and her and like her tone. And you said in the interview that she said that she may have
Gimme.
Yeah.
receive stuff.
Did you hear how they did it? You said you want to do anything to help find your wife. Just what we'd love to do is to download your devices. Give us your devices.
Yeah.
I think it'll help us really create a permanent timeline of the events of the 1st and the 31st and the 1st, and maybe get a better insight into Anna. Is that something you'd be okay with?
Just to be clear, you want to download everything on my phone?
We will download, the extraction will download all the contents to your phone, yes.
Oh, that's a lot.
Oh.
What we're focusing on though is
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah, that is a lot.
what we're interested in. Yes, download everything, but we're interested in locating Anna and finding information specifically in there that would help us do that. The Anna specific content.
That's a huge amount of personal information, gentlemen.
It's a big ask, but there's a lot on the line.
No, there is a lot.
You know what I mean?
Did you guys get in touch with Uber?
That is one of the
That's the first time he's asked a question about his wife being missing. Did you guys get in touch with Uber? This is now his second interview with law enforcement. And that is the first question he asked about what they're doing.
After that conversation, did you ever speak to him again?
Saturday
Saturday. And where did that conversation take place?
at the same dining room table in his home.
And who was present for that conversation?
Myself, Trooper DeChico, Trooper Proctor, Attorney Minor, and the defendant.
And
Well, Trooper Proctor has been to the Walshe residence more than he ever went to 34 Fairview, and whoop, there it is. At the end of day one, we have heard a lot from Brian Walshe in his audio recorded police interviews. And at the very last interview, it's Brian Walshe, his lawyer, Proctor, and DeChico. And at one point, you just hear Proctor's voice in an interview where it was very hard to hear law enforcement's questions. And you're just like, oh, here's the overlap. And we have seen today in court quite a lot of the Norfolk DA's MSP officers, troopers that we have become familiar with, Buchanan. And tomorrow, we're going to have the same MSP tech troopers on the stand. So back to Guarino. And yes, Guarino is the hot mic, kill me dude.
kill me.
Oh. Who said that? We'll see what happens this trial, but Guarino apparently has binders and binders of Safari searches and more from Mr. Defendant. I don't know how text, but we also know that some of the Birchmore discovery has been turned over in this case. And in the Birchmore case, it's alleged that Guarino missed over 30,000 text messages. I imagine that the cross-examination of Guarino will cover some period of time. However, I wonder if the strategy shifts with, yeah, he Googled it. He Googled disposing the body because he freaked out. Maybe they won't fight it in a way to not illuminate it. Maybe they'll say, yeah, he Googled all those things. But you know what he didn't Google? How to kill somebody. You know what he didn't Google? How to murder your wife so it's not detected. He didn't Google any of those things. He Googled about getting a divorce, which the defense is going to argue was to protect the family assets in case he went to prison on the federal fraud case that he was pending sentencing on. And they're going to say, no, he Googled divorce and that was about protecting the assets. And we're going to see them argue that she died of natural causes and that then he freaked out. So maybe they won't fight all of that tech evidence. And maybe they'll get to the end of it and say, you know why we didn't fight that tech evidence? Because you know what it doesn't show? It doesn't show that he murdered her. Because that's how the defense ended their closing argument. They ended their closing with Brian Walshe didn't kill his wife. Brian Walshe didn't think about killing his wife. And they are going to hammer after the first-degree murder, which brings back a lot of the questions y'all have been asking. If he's already pled guilty to disposing of her body, why are we here? Well, because we've seen it work in other trials, especially when a person's remains are not recovered, that they can say, yeah, I disposed of them, but I didn't kill them. So they are trying to first get to a not guilty. Second, the defense is going to try to get this out of first-degree murder to second-degree murder. Well, if you think he was involved, show me where there's planning. Show me where he did anything before the fact. Show me where there's anything to prove that this wasn't an accident. Even if he did anything, show me where it's a first-degree intentional homicide and not a manslaughter, not a second degree. And I think we'll see the arguments go in that direction. But we heard at the beginning of the day today, the prosecution asked the court to keep out any mention of the defendant's guilty plea. And the court hasn't discussed that yet or ruled on it yet. But the prosecution's like, we're not mentioning that he pled guilty to any of these counts. Because the prosecution, I think, wants to cut off the argument. I admit what I did, but I won't admit to that because I did not do that. I think they're trying to hedge that argument. And the defense is going to argue with them on that. But the court hasn't ruled yet whether the jury will know that he pled guilty on the other two counts. They know that what's before them is a first-degree murder indictment. That's all they know at this point. We'll see how the court rules on that. And we'll see if what the defense says is, yeah, we're not arguing over these searches. They were all after. Show me what he did before. He had a perfectly lovely New Year's Eve with his wife and their friend. And then he was on his email, and then she went to bed, and then he went up to go to bed, and she was non-responsive. And they seem to indicate an opening. That's where they're going to lean in. And I think we'll see him on the stand. The one thing that might take this case longer than 3 weeks is how long Brian Walshe ends up on the stand if he chooses to testify. And it seems that he very well might based on the defense's statements. We'll see what day 2 brings, but we know that it's going to bring at least 40 more minutes of interviews with Brian Walshe. Yay. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the Law Nerd app at lawnerdapp.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.